Knowing your life is about to change once your name is called and you go up on stage and you understand that you fulfilled a dream of yours to make it to the NBA.
It's a very impressive group.
Trey to the rim. Good!
He's must-see TV.
Bamba soaring through the air.
Eaton with the monster slam.
Oh, into the rim and stuffs it through.
The quality of the bigs at the top of this draft is phenomenal.
I think I'm the best player in this draft.
NBA scouts are drooling right now.
We haven't seen a player like Luka Doncic enter the draft ever.
There's no way like me. I am the best competitor in this draft.
Alley-oop slam for Marvin Bagley.
You never want to be second. You want to be first. You want to be on top. And that's the reason you play this game.
Oh, so many good one and dones in this class. Now, a freshman has been selected #1 overall in 8 straight drafts. The last non-freshman drafted first overall, that was Blake Griffin way back in 2009. Currently, ESPN projecting DeAndre Ayton going first overall to the Suns, so staying in the great state of Arizona. As we welcome back our front office insider, Bobby Marks. So let's talk about a couple of fascinating decisions that GMs will have to make here. First, Micheal Porter Jr., we still don't know after he canceled his second pro day what the medical analysis is. That was a hip, and obviously he didn't participate in the combine, in the medical exam. So you're a GM, you're looking at this talent, but it's a bit of a risk. How do you assess it?
Well, it's a huge risk. I think we have to look at the fall of Micheal Porter Jr., projected #2 in October before the season occurred. Now we have him projected #7, missed all but 3 games with that back injury. Had a pro day 2 weeks ago, performed fine for teams. Canceled his second pro day. Had some doctors come out there for lottery teams to take a look at that back and that hip that's plagued him. But if I'm a team that is at #2, Sacramento, #3, Atlanta, #4, Memphis, small market teams that really need to hit on draft picks, I do have a lot of concern if I am the owner or the front office of that organization.
Yeah, so maybe you need somebody who's going to be able to absorb that risk a little bit better. All right, let's talk about Luka Doncic, because there's no questioning his talent. We've heard a lot about maybe even perhaps going 2 overall to the Kings. However, he has not committed to playing in the NBA next season. So put me in the GM chair. How do you deal with that?
Well, I don't want to bring nightmares to Knicks fans, but this is not the next Frederick Weiss. And it's not even the next Ricky Rubio, who was drafted in 2009, and then we didn't see Rubio until 2011.
Right.
It's interesting. Doncic is still playing in Spain. They have their Game 3 of the Spanish League Finals is actually later today. I expect Doncic to come over next year to play. Unlikely to be at the draft Thursday night based on where this tournament is right now. Has a small buyout of $1 million euros. Teams can pay up to $700,000. I think a lot of it has to come down to your comfort level, your relationship with his agent, Bill Duffy from BDA Sports, to get a feeling going into the draft that he will be here. But I'm expecting Doncic to be in an NBA uniform next season.
So there needs to be some sort of discussion, some maybe verbal commitment on the part of a team that's going to draft him. Boy, you said you didn't want a nightmare for Knicks fans. How about T-Wolves fans? Remember that draft?
Oh, I remember.
Oh, boy, back-to-back guards, and Steph Curry's still sitting there? Crazy. All right.
Out that Leonard does want out. It comes after a tumultuous season in which the NBA's 2-time Defensive Player of the Year only played 9 games because of a quad injury. The Spurs' handling of that injury is what's at the heart of the issue for Kawhi. The team reportedly did not like the fact he got a second opinion on the quad. A source also tells ESPN that Kawhi has not officially asked for a trade. Here's what all of this could mean for Kawhi. If he is traded, he would no longer be eligible for a super max deal. That means his new max contract would be a total of $31 million less than it would be if he signs with San Antonio this offseason. Remember, Kawhi can also opt out of his current deal 1 year from now. That would be at the end of the 2018-2019 season. Adrian Wojnarowski joins me now live. Adrian, the other day you had doubts that the relationship between Kawhi and the Spurs could be repaired, and that face-to-face meeting between Kawhi and head coach Greg Popovich still has not happened. Woj, at this point, what, if anything, can the Spurs do to salvage this relationship?
Well, Sage, the Spurs had wanted to talk directly to Kawhi Leonard. Greg Popovich had worked with him on trying to set up a meeting. That meeting hadn't happened. I was told in the last couple days that Leonard was trying to buy some time before sitting down with Popovich, and then was thinking of maybe just talking to him on the phone. But that reporting today, Chris's reporting, blindsided the Spurs. They had not been told this by Kawhi Leonard or his camp. In fact, there had been a sense around the organization that they wanted to get that $219 million Supermax offer. So San Antonio would like to speak with Kawhi Leonard and see if there's a way to move forward here. There are some who wonder, is this just a negotiating tactic, or is Kawhi Leonard absolutely set on being traded? Those are questions San Antonio and some other teams around the league right now would like to get some answers to.
And then you're reporting that he wants to actually go to Los Angeles. That'd be his preference, preferably to the Lakers, right? But that does not mean, Woj, that he'll actually end up there, correct?
That's right. And Los Angeles, the Lakers, and the Clippers, and around Kawhi Leonard and his group over the last weeks, months, there's been a lot of indecision, a lot of changing of minds of what exactly it is they would like to do. So it remains fluid because of the chance to go to L.A. LeBron James potentially headed there in free agency, or a Paul George. That appeal, on one day I'm told that appeals to Leonard, and then there are times he thinks, maybe I don't want that spotlight. He hasn't liked the coverage of this story and having the attention on him. Well, you're going to get that times a lot in L.A., and that makes the Clippers at times more intriguing to him. And so this story may keep evolving, and there are plenty of other teams who'd like to get involved in trade talks with the Spurs.
And we'll talk a little bit more about those teams coming up here on SportsCenter. But, with this, there's a lot of dominoes that are going to fall based on what Kawhi does, including, you mentioned him, LeBron James. How specifically could this affect LeBron, Woj?
Well, listen, LeBron wants to play with great players. He said, I want to play with high IQ guys, and certainly that's Kawhi Leonard. This is a MVP caliber player in the league. It is a difficult pathway for Kawhi to get to the Lakers before his free agency in 2019. The Spurs are not going to be inclined, they're not going to be enthusiastic about doing a deal with the Lakers. The pieces with the Lakers don't fit. Watch for Boston. If the Spurs do a deal, if they get to that point, Boston has the assets and the interest in Kawhi Leonard to maybe do the kind of deal that would make more sense for the Spurs, young players, and draft picks.
You said earlier in the week that Boston inquired about this possible trade back at the deadline in February, but the Spurs said no thank you. So now we shall see if he ends up there after all. Thank you, Adrian. Much more on Kawhi Leonard coming up. But first, let's take a look back at how all of this began.
Kawhi Leonard dealing with an injured thigh that will keep him out of the preseason.
He's had quad injuries dating back to spring of 2016. That is worrisome.
Kawhi Leonard out for the season opener.
Look at Leonard, difficulty just making up the stairs of the team playing.
Really.
Still no timetable for his return.
My hope is that this is classic Spurs caution.
Missed the first 27 regular season games.
Just taking my time so I could be healthy down the road.
Legs look just fine there. Oh, it's great to have him back.
Kawhi Leonard has a partial tear in his left shoulder.
He played 9 games, and he didn't really seem right.
Kawhi Leonard, he's out indefinitely. Horrible situation. Yeah, it's bad.
Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs now have a strained relationship.
The team held a players-only meeting. His own teammates said, come play with us.
Kawhi Leonard has told them, I've got good reason why I haven't played.
For me, he's not coming back because he's not healthy.
He's up for the Supermax. There's a lot of money on the line this
There may be a chance that Kawhi played his last game with the Spurs.
Can he repair the relationship and keep Kawhi, or is he going to have to move him?
Still more to come on Kawhi. We're hearing L.A. is where he wants to go. Micheal Wilbon on what should be the top destination for the two-time Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, listen, I do this with ease to make them believe. I make them believe. Hear what they say in the streets. I got what they need. I got what they need. That's facts. I know you can't match that. I live on the best track. We're making the impact and keeping it intact.
Our top story here on SportsCenter today, the report that Kawhi Leonard, one of the biggest stars in the NBA, wants out of San Antonio. This according to our Chris B. Haynes. And also, Kawhi reportedly, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, prefers to go to Los Angeles, preferably the Lakers. This comes after months of contentiousness between Leonard and the Spurs, surrounding the handling of Kawhi's quad injury, which kept him out of all but 9 games this past season. And here is Chris Haynes a couple hours after breaking the story. Chris, Kawhi, Greg Popovich still have not met face-to-face this offseason. So why is this news coming out now?
Well, look, the Kawhi's camp has always been felt like they have been slighted by the Spurs all season long. They felt like there's a level of distrust there with the way his quad injury has been handled and the narrative surrounding that injury. And so leading up to the draft, we all know that's when trades start circulating. That's when things start forming. And Kawhi has yet to sit down and have a meeting with the Spurs brass. And I was told that the Spurs wanted that to happen, but it probably wanted that to happen with just Kawhi. And that's just not going to play right now. So I think all these factors led to the point to where Kawhi has basically felt like he's had enough and he wants to get out of San Antonio. And that's what I reported this morning. When
you say just Kawhi, you mean without agents, without family members?
Correct. Without agents, without his agent, without family members. The Spurs will like to deal with this with just Kawhi. Okay. But I think from Kawhi's camp, they felt like it hasn't just been Kawhi. It's been the whole camp. That's been the level of scrutiny has been going towards all of them. And they wanted to have if they were going to have a meeting, they wanted to have this together. Okay. And I think that both sides couldn't agree to make that happen. I think that's what led to where we are now.
So here's the thing. One of many interesting things, the Spurs are the only team that can offer Kawhi the Supermax contract. Why leave that much money on the table, which is over $30 million, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people felt like Kawhi Leonard, he's a businessman first and foremost, and a basketball player, but they felt like he would be crazy to leave over $30 million on the table. But the level of distrust that Kawhi feels that the organization placed upon him and the way he handled his injury in this situation, he feel like he just wants to be in a situation where he trusts the organization, trusts that they have his best interest in mind. And he's willing to let go of that money to go out to greater pastures. Now, look, I think something can still be amended here. Obviously, it's going to take those two to come to terms and come together on that. But as of right now, Kawhi feels like he's better suited being somewhere else. And he's not even thinking about the money right now. And that's a huge problem because remember, the Spurs don't deal with problems like this. But already 2 years in a row, LaMarcus requested trade last summer. Now we have Kawhi. So things have definitely changed in Spurs land.
Yeah, LaMarcus and Pop worked that out. Things are good with them. But now this, and remember, Greg Popovich, the loss of his wife just 2 months ago. So very tough times personally as well for Greg Popovich. Chris Haynes, great stuff today. Thank you. Kevin?
Well, Kawhi established himself as one of the best players in the game in the 2014 NBA Finals stage. He was named MVP of that series at age 22, shot over 61% from the floor. Leonard has turned into one of the best defensive players in the game. How about Defensive Player of the Year in both 2016 and 2017, finishing the top 3 in MVP voting both years. Two-way player. Also has improved in scoring average each of his first 6 seasons. First, in his last full season, he averaged over 25 points per game. And that year, he led the Spurs to the Western Conference Finals. He had dropped 26 points in 24 minutes in Game 1 against the Warriors. However, he sprained his ankle in that game, and the Spurs were swept. It's great to have Micheal Wilbon with us. And Micheal, 2 years ago, Kawhi was the perfect Spur, one of the 3 best players in the NBA. Now we're here. What's your reaction to that he wants out of San Antonio?
Well, Kevin, my first reaction is this is unbelievably short-sighted. And he's getting some advice I wouldn't trust in a million years. In the Spurs, you're talking about the most stable NBA organization over the last 20 years in all probability. I mean, from David Robinson to Tim Duncan to Kawhi Leonard and all the people around him to have R.C. Buford and Greg Popovich there. And all throughout his arrival, his maturation, from a guy people didn't expect much of to an NBA Finals MVP. You've got Ginobili and Parker and just a cast that is so stable. And because somebody gets in your ear and tells you you can't trust them anymore, it just seems to me to be, I don't know, it seems to be a sort of a sad day. Not for the Spurs necessarily. I think the Spurs will find a way to recover. But Kawhi Leonard, maybe he'll recover if he gets traded to one of those teams that's also stable and has a history of winning. If he gets his wish and he goes to the Lakers, if perhaps he winds up on the Celtics. But if I'm the San Antonio Spurs, I'm only worried about the deal I get back, not what his wishes might be.
Okay, when it comes to fit and personnel, what would be the perfect destination for Kawhi?
Well, I don't know about perfect, but I mean, there's some destinations and where it could work out. Obviously, we've heard the talk about the Lakers. If I'm the Spurs, I got to get Brandon Ingram back for starters and maybe Kuzma. I mean, I'm not just going to let Kawhi Leonard join your team because he wants out when he's under contract. That's not going to happen. So the Lakers would seem to be a good fit then, particularly if they can still successfully pursue LeBron James, and or Paul George. So, I mean, that's got a lot of upside to it. And the Celtics have so many assets, Kevin. You could do the same thing with playing that game. What do I have to have in return? And we know that Kyrie Irving's name would come up. He wouldn't be the only thing given his injury history, but he would be one of the pieces I'd be asking back.
Okay, and then what impact could this have on LeBron's decision in your mind with where Kawhi goes?
Well, I mean, if you conduct a trade and you think you have Kawhi Leonard coming to the Lakers and LeBron James looks there and sees he gets to play with Kawhi, now you're talking about the kind of personnel that you feel you can look eye to eye with the Golden State Warriors next year. I mean, we know Kawhi Leonard is not scared of the Golden State Warriors. Last time he played against them, he had a 25-point lead in Oakland in Game 1 of a Western Conference Final. So that, to me, would seem to have put a little extra pop in LeBron James' step if he was serious about joining the Lakers as a free agent.
It could be the first big domino in a very, very fun offseason ahead. Michael Wilbon on the biggest story of the day with Kawhi Leonard. Check this out. The Lakers won only 35 games last season, but after the news about Kawhi today, their odds are now 6-1 to win the NBA title next season. Only the Warriors, the Rockets, the Sixers, and Celtics have better odds to win the title next year. Meanwhile, the Spurs odds have doubled from 25-1 to 50-1 since the end of the season.